Spider-Man is one of the most beloved superheroes of all time. Everybody knows who Spider-Man is. Kids love him, adults love him, seniors love him, everyone loves him. He is the most recognizable superhero, maybe outside of Superman, and he's definitely more popular. So obviously that leads to many different interpretations of the character. You got your Maguires, you got your Garfields, you got your Hollands, you got your all the different animated ones, like a lot of them. Oh my god, please stop. So you can see that there are a ton of different variants of the character. Today, I'm going to take a look specifically at the cartoon ones to see what I think of every show that stars the titular hero. Here's the thing, I'm going to be skipping the 1960s one for a couple of reasons. One, the legality of that show is kind of up in the air in terms of who owns it and, you know, whatever. So it's not readily available to stream anywhere. It's not on Disney Plus, at least not anymore. It's not on Paramount Plus. It's not on any other major streaming service. So I'm not going to be able to watch that one. Besides which, it's a very primitive animation in the first place, like even more so than the one we're going to be talking about today. And so, to me, it's not really worth actually considering if it's a good Spider-Man interpretation, because the answer is just no right out the gate. So instead, today I'm going to be taking a look at the animated cartoon that aired in 1981 to decide if that one is a good interpretation of the character. And I'm just going to be looking at the first 2 episodes in today's video. If this is popular and you guys want to see more, I'd be willing to do so, but I'm not going to review the entire season in the first episode. That would take forever. Anyway, let's get into it. Firstly, what do I think about this version of Peter Parker, the voice actor? Is he a good voice actor? In my opinion, I think he is. At least from the 2 episodes that I watched, he seemed to have a good balance of cockiness as Spider-Man and making jokes, and kind of reservedness and sort of the geeky persona that Peter Parker is supposed to have. He seems to strike a very good balance of that. Now, it is the 1980s, and they had a weird thing where everyone had to sound like not a kid back then, so he doesn't exactly sound like he's in high school like he's supposed to be, but, you know, you can kind of work around that. That's just kind of mostly how most cartoons worked back then, and really even movies in general. They just didn't like to cast teenagers. So he doesn't exactly sound young, but he doesn't sound too old so that it's just ridiculous. Doc Ock, on the other hand, is a little bit weird. Not only the voice actor, I am not a huge fan of. He didn't really embody Doc Ock to me. The character motivation is also just kind of wrong. But I'll talk about that more when we get there. So let's take a look at the first episode.
Spider-Man!
Right off the bat, this opening song is too long. Like, it's way too long. It's just almost a minute of runtime in a roughly 22-minute episode, and there's no catchiness to it, really. It's not like the Spectacular Spider-Man theme, which has, you know, good lyrics and a good beat. It doesn't really have that. It's not the 90s show where, yeah, that one doesn't have any lyrics, but it's a good, you know, everybody recognizes the doo-doo-doo, that this doesn't have that at all. There's like a little bit of a catchiness to it if it would have been like 15 seconds, but not a whole minute.
That sounded like someone breaking into the museum. A definite no-no if I ever heard one. Might as well get some photos for the Bugle while old Spidey does his thing.
These 2 episodes have a very similar problem to what the 1994 series does, even though I think the 1994 series is better than both of these. But basically the dialogue is just super direct. Like, it's just basically character is feeling this, says this. Character is like doing this, so he has to like narrate it by himself. And it just comes off as very awkward. How long are Doc's arms in this episode?
I've done it. Only the mechanical arms of Dr. Octopus could have stolen this $1 million ruby.
Also, you can definitely tell this is a 1980s animated thing. It's very stiff animation. And I know that's just kind of how it has to be based on the times, but not ideal. Doc Ock and Spider-Man then proceed to have a fight where precisely 2 things happen. He gets thrown off a balcony, and then he gets back up, and then he gets thrown off it again, and that's the whole fight. So at the very beginning of this episode, Doc Ock says this.
Now that the web spinner's out of the way, I can continue with my master plan to take over the world.
What a generic villain. They boiled down one of Spider-Man's greatest threats to just, I want world domination. Why? There's no motivation there. It's just like, I want it because. And they do a very poor job of explaining why Doc wants to do anything in this episode. Peter gets out of the trash can he fell in and heads home.
The professor will skin me for this.
I like that touch. The fact that when Peter takes off his mask, it's like a hood behind the thing. I like that. Is it practical? Probably not. But it's a cool design, and also it reminds me of the early seasons of The Flash. So, it gets a pass from me. Now, this episode does something that I think most really good Spider-Man stories kind of need, and it's a very good Peter Parker versus Spider-Man dilemma. And what I mean by that is not like they have to fight each other or anything, but I mean that the priorities of Spider-Man and the priorities of Peter Parker should contradict each other. Peter Parker is in school. He's in high school, so he should be studying, he should be, just making friends and just being a high schooler. Peter Parker, as Spider-Man, is supposed to go out and stop crime and kind of just patrol the streets, if you will. So, in this episode, it's a good dilemma because Spider-Man has to figure out how to stop Doc Ock, but also he forgets about doing his homework.
Oh no, I forgot my homework. I've got to finish this history assignment on the landmarks of New York or I'll flunk for sure.
So he has to rush throughout the episode to try to figure out what his homework is going to be. And by the end of the episode, he ends up using his experience as Spider-Man for the homework.
That must have been a really excellent report you wrote.
Well, I didn't exactly write a report, Aunt May. Instead, I used the pictures I took for the Daily Bugle to make a photo essay on the landmarks of New York City.
And that's a very good writing for this kind of dilemma that I don't really see most media get as well as this does in its very first episode.
Now to steal the second object that I'll need for my master plan.
Spider-Man, what do you want? You try anything and I'll call campus security.
Forget security. This looks like a case for Roto-Rooter.
Spider-Man, you've got to help us. It's trying to steal our priceless moon rock.
Okay, there's a lot of problems with this scene. First off, she starts berating Spider-Man when he comes into the door, asking what he wants, when she can clearly just look down and see Ock's arm taking the diamond away. Meanwhile, Spider-Man's just standing there watching it happen while he says a quip to them. Only then does she ask him to stop it, after it's pretty much already happened.
I blew it this time. Ock outsmarted me. He's got his metal arms on remote control.
Wait, hold on, go back a minute. So you're telling me that was just a remote control the whole time? Well then how about this shot? Great continuity. Hello, some reused animation, nice to see ya. Then it's revealed that Doc Ock actually stole a piece of quartz rather than the moon rock that she was worried about.
That piece of quartz meant more to him than the priceless moon rock. And it's up to me to figure out why.
It's time to raise the periscope and find my first helpless target. There it is, a super tanker filled with millions of barrels of oil. Now for the final phase of my master plan.
Oil? Doc is... his master plan is to get oil. What is the plan here? What is his motivation? First he's like, I want world domination. Now he needs, like, oil for the thing. Why? No.
Strange. There's no sign of Doc Ock anywhere.
Extra! Extra! Read all about the mystery of the vanishing oil!
What? How does the news know that? Ultimately, Spider-Man ends up winning the fight, not through brute strength, but rather outsmarting Doc Ock. After he gains the upper hand in the fight, he swims away to allow the Coast Guard to all surround Doc Ock. That way they can capture him with him not being able to escape. So that's the first episode. Not great. It's just kind of generic. I feel like there's some things in this episode that work very well. The Spider-Man dilemma between Peter and Spider-Man, great. There's really good writing, and I think that using Doc Ock as a villain in the first episode is a good idea in theory. In practice, I don't think it worked out very well, just because I don't think the writers really understood what Doc Ock is or what his motivation is in the comics or should be in this new interpretation of him. Also, I just don't like the Doc Ock voice actor very much. He just doesn't really seem to really own the role. He just seems to kind of be like a generic, like, wahaha, I'm a villain kind of guy, and like, I don't know, it doesn't do much for me. Also, some of the editing choices are just really weird. Watch this one scene uncut and then my version right after.
Look, it's Spider-Man!
What's happening? He's going into the sewer!
Hey, Spidey!
Sorry, folks, no time for autographs, but you may applaud if you wish.
Look, it's Spider-Man! man.
He's going into the sewer!
Sorry, folks, no time for autographs.
I like the fact that in this show, Spider-Man already seems to know the villains, like he's met them before. It's not really an origin story. You don't have to waste time on it. It just kind of hops you into the world. I like that. I don't want to have to, wait 5 episodes for Spider-Man to become Spider-Man in the new show. Just let him be it already and just kind of, evolve the world from there. So overall, I would give the first episode, a 6 out of 10. If you guys want to see more of this particular show, let me know in the comments down below. I'd totally be willing to watch more of it. I might watch more of it anyway, I just might not make a video about it. I'm not sure. I just kind of want to get a gauge of how each of these different cartoons function in their own universes and how they each handle Spider-Man. If you guys have ever watched this series, comment down below and tell me what you guys think about it, if you think it's aged very well or not. I think in some instances it did age pretty well, especially for the time. I think it's just clear that it's not quite as timeless as some of the other animation series that we'll talk about later has. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next episode. Goodbye!